So, when you hear the word translator, what comes to mind? You probably picture someone who just, swaps words from one language to another, right? Well, in the world of medicine, that's not even close to the full story. It's a field where translation is so much more complex and, honestly, so much more critical.
Okay, to really get what I'm talking about, let's just imagine a scenario. Picture a patient trying to describe their symptoms. They say they have a really bad headache. But here's the thing. Is it just a simple tension headache? Or could it be a life-threatening brain aneurysm?
The difference between those two diagnoses could literally boil down to a single, perfectly translated word. In this kind of high-stakes environment, a tiny error isn't just a grammar issue. No way. It's a potential misdiagnosis with serious, real-world consequences for a patient's health.
So who's the person making sure that mistake never, ever happens? Well, that brings us to the hero of our story today, the expert medical translator. And let's be clear, they are not just bilingual. We're talking about a highly skilled professional with this unique combination of 5 key qualities: deep medical knowledge, precision language skills, sharp cultural awareness, a crazy attention to detail, and serious technical expertise.
So let's break that down, starting with the absolute bedrock of the profession, what we're calling the knowledge foundation. This is all about how medical expertise and total language fluency aren't separate things. They're completely intertwined.
And this really shows you what I mean. It's not one or the other. You have to have both. On one side, you need a deep, genuine understanding of medicine itself. We're talking anatomy, physiology, all that complex terminology. And on the other side, you need absolute mastery of both languages, right down to the nitty-gritty of grammar, syntax, and even those subtle little phrases that don't translate literally. They're truly two halves of a whole.
So what does it actually take to keep that medical knowledge sharp? Well, it means you're always learning, constantly staying on top of the latest breakthroughs in medicine. A lot of the time, it means specializing in a really complex field, something like cardiology or oncology. And, maybe most importantly, it means working side by side with doctors and other experts to make sure every single detail is 100% accurate.
Now, on the language side of things, what's really fascinating is that mastery is so much more than just being fluent. It's about being able to adapt your entire style. I mean, think about it. Are you translating a simple leaflet for a patient, or are you translating a dense surgical report for a specialist? The language has to be totally different. It's about nailing all that technical jargon and really getting those tricky idioms that can trip anyone up.
Okay, so you've got the medical knowledge and you've got the language skills. But guess what? Even that isn't enough. The translator has to be a kind of cultural bridge, because in medicine, the context surrounding the words is just as critical as the words themselves.
I love this quote because it just hits the nail on the head. This work is not about some robotic word-for-word exchange. The real goal is a translation that is patient-centered and respectful, one that understands there's a human being at the center of it all. And what does that actually look like in practice? Well, it means understanding that different cultures have totally different attitudes about health and sickness. It's knowing if a culture prefers very direct communication or if a more indirect, gentle approach is better. It's even being aware of things like regional customs or whether making eye contact is seen as a sign of respect or a sign of aggression. A great translator navigates all of this to make sure the message truly lands. All right, so we've got the knowledge foundation and the cultural sensitivity. The final piece of this puzzle is what you might call the professional polish. These are the skills you might not even notice, the unseen skills of precision and technology that really separate the pros from the amateurs. Now, this is super cool because it shows you how these translators tackle huge challenges with some serious tech. For instance, how do you keep things consistent across, say, thousands of pages of clinical trial data? You use specialized translation memory tools. How do you manage all that very specific terminology? You build and use terminology databases. And when you need to research a complex new concept, you tap into professional medical databases like Medline or PubMed. This is not guesswork, folks. It is a high-tech, precision-driven process. And holding all of that technology together is an almost obsessive attention to detail. And we're not just talking about running a spell check. We're talking about making absolutely sure that the core meaning is perfectly conveyed, that every single number and date is precise, that the formatting is identical, and that every medical abbreviation is checked and translated correctly. It's intense. So, after we've gone through the knowledge, the culture, and the professional polish, what does this all boil down to? Really, it comes down to this one number: 5.
5 totally distinct but deeply interconnected qualities that create the complete expert. You've got the medical knowledge, the language skills, the cultural awareness, that meticulous attention to detail, and the crucial technical skills. You can't just have one or two. A true expert has all 5 working in perfect harmony.
So if there's one thing you take away from this, it's that these 5 qualities, they aren't just nice to haves. They combine to create an absolutely indispensable professional. Someone who doesn't just translate words, but who literally bridges life or death communication gaps to ensure patient safety and improve care for everyone.
Which really just leaves us with one final thought. Who is one of the most important, most vital healthcare professionals that you may never, ever see? Well, it just might be that expert medical translator, working tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure every single word counts.